Welcome back, everybody, to the weekly deep dive. You know, we love diving deep into the stuff that helps us live better lives.
Absolutely.
And today we're going deep on resilience,
Yeah.
which, we hear that word a lot,
Yeah.
but how do we actually build it? Like, what does that even mean?
Right.
So to help us on this journey, we're turning to Holly Corbett's Forbes article, The Resilience Factor, How to Overcome Challenges in Uncertain Times.
Ooh, that sounds good.
And our mission today is to break this down, give you, the listeners, the actual tools and tactics to boost your own resilience.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we all want that inner strength to face whatever life throws at us, right?
You got it.
So, it's easy to think about resilience as this like superhuman ability to bounce back from huge crises,
Yeah, like you just get knocked down and you just like spring right back up.
Right, exactly. But what's cool about this article is that it shows us how resilience is just as important for handling those everyday challenges too.
Yep, absolutely.
Those difficult conversations or setbacks at work, or even just like unexpected changes that throw us off.
Totally. Like those little things that can really add up and weigh you down if you let them.
Exactly. So before we go any further, let's just define what resilience actually is.
Yeah, good point.
Because it's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean in a practical sense?
Well, the article actually starts with the Merriam-Webster definition, which is an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change.
Okay, so it's about bouncing back, but it's also about adapting.
Right. It's not just about like gritting your teeth and bearing it. It's about actively navigating the situation and figuring out how to move forward.
So it's more like being flexible than being rigid.
Yeah. I like to think of it like a tree in the wind. It bends with the wind, but it doesn't break.
I love that analogy. And the article also makes this really encouraging point that resilience isn't some kind of fixed personality trait.
Yes, it's so important.
It's not like you're either born resilient or you're not.
Right. It's not set in stone.
It's actually something that we can develop and strengthen over time.
It's like a muscle you can build it up with practice.
And that's really empowering to know, right?
Totally.
Like anyone can become more resilient if they put in the work.
And the research shows that the benefits are huge. I mean, like Harvard Health has linked higher resilience to so many positive things.
Like what kind of things?
Well, for starters, it's linked to greater job satisfaction.
Okay, so happier at work.
Yeah. And not just happier, but also more engaged with your work, more committed to your organization.
Wow. So it's not just about our personal well-being, but also our professional success.
Exactly. And it even goes beyond that. Studies have shown that people with higher resilience tend to live longer.
No way.
Yeah, and they're less likely to experience depression, and they generally have a higher overall life satisfaction.
So basically, resilience is like a superpower for life.
Pretty much.
All right, well, I'm sold. I definitely want more of this resilience stuff.
Yeah.
So how do we actually get it?
Well, luckily, Holly Corbett outlines 3 key habits that we can start practicing to build our resilience.
Okay, well, let's hear them.
Habit number 1 is reframing failure.
Okay, so this is interesting because for a lot of us, the word failure just has a really negative connotation.
Yeah, it's like a big, scary word.
Right. So how do we change our perspective on that?
Well, the article starts by reminding us that life is inherently challenging.
Like we're not going to get through this thing unscathed.
Exactly. We're all going to experience setbacks, rejections, mistakes. It's part of being human.
Okay, sure.
So the key shift here is to move away from dwelling on the negative emotions that come up when those things happen.
Okay, so don't just wallow in the disappointment.
Right. Instead, she encourages us to look back at those times that we perceive as failures.
Sure.
And try to identify any positive outcomes or opportunities for growth that might have emerged.
So it's like looking for the silver lining.
Yeah, or even like those hidden gems of wisdom that you can take away from the experience.
Because even in those tough situations, there's often something valuable to be learned.
There always is. It's just a matter of perspective.
I like that every setback is a curriculum in disguise.
That's a good one.
So it's not about avoiding failure, it's about learning from it.
Exactly. And the article gives us some really helpful questions to ask ourselves to kind of guide this process.
Like what?
Well, one question is, how can the lessons I learned from this experience potentially help others?
Oh, that's a good one because it takes the focus off of yourself and puts it on how you can use your experience to make a positive impact on others.
Right. And another question is, did I meet anyone significant or forge any meaningful connections as a result of this experience.
Oh, yeah. Even if the outcome wasn't what you wanted, maybe you met someone amazing along the way.
Exactly. Or maybe you built a new skill or discovered a hidden strength that you didn't know you had.
And that leads to the third question, which is, in what ways did I grow either personally or professionally because of navigating this difficult situation?
Right. Because even if it feels like a failure at the time, it might have actually pushed you to grow in ways that you wouldn't have otherwise.
So it's about recognizing that endings can also be beginnings.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sometimes what feels like a failure is actually just a redirection.
Like a closed door leading to an open window.
Exactly. And the article really emphasizes that the key here is to focus on extracting those lessons for future growth and recovery.
So don't get stuck in the blame game.
Right. Be kind to yourself and focus on what you can learn and how you can move forward.
So much easier said than done.
Oh, for sure. It takes practice, but it's a skill that you could build over time.
Okay, so the first habit is reframing failure. What's the second habit?
The second habit is pinpointing your values.
So when I first read this, I thought, well, yeah, of course I have values.
Right.
But then I realized that I hadn't really taken the time to consciously define them.
That's a common experience.
Like I had a general sense of what was important to me, but I hadn't really articulated it.
And that's what the article is encouraging us to do, to actually get clear on what our core values are, because those values are like our guiding principles,
They're like the compass that helps us navigate through life.
especially when things get tough. Because when we're facing fear or hurt or uncertainty, our values can be such a source of strength.
So knowing your why helps you weather the storms.
Exactly. And the article even mentions that aligning with your values can actually have a physiological impact.
Really?
Yeah, like it can potentially lower your stress hormones.
That's amazing.
It makes sense. When you think about it, when your actions are in line with your beliefs, you feel a sense of integrity. And that can be really calming and grounding.
So how do we pinpoint these values?
Well, the article suggests starting by identifying your top 3 to 5 personal values.
Okay. Not too overwhelming.
Right. And if you're feeling stuck, it also references Brené Brown's list of values from her book, Dare to Lead.
Oh, yeah. I love that book.
It's a great resource. She lists things like authenticity, curiosity, excellence, freedom, kindness, legacy recognition, security.
Okay, so there are some good options to get the wheels turning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And once you've identified your core values, the article recommends writing them down and putting them somewhere visible.
So you can see them every day.
It's exactly like on your desk or in your journal or even as a note on your phone.
I love that idea because it's so easy to lose sight of what's important when we get caught up in the day-to-day grind.
It's a good reminder to stay connected to your why.
So when those inevitable challenges come up, we can check in with our values and ask ourselves, are my actions aligned with what I truly believe in?
Right, because it's not just about getting through the challenge. It's about how you get through it.
It's about living in accordance with your values, even in the midst of difficulty.
And that can give you a sense of inner strength and resilience, even when things are tough.
Okay, so we've covered reframing failure and pinpointing your values. What's the third habit?
The third habit is prioritizing cultivating connections.
Oh, this one's so important.
It is.
Because it's so easy to isolate yourself when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed.
It's like that natural instinct to withdraw.
But the article reminds us that we're actually wired for connection.
We're social creatures.
And those connections are essential for our resilience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, think about support groups. They exist because shared experiences and mutual support can be so powerful in helping us overcome challenges.
Yeah, and it makes sense, when you know that you're not alone in your struggles, it can make things feel so much more manageable.
Exactly. And the article highlights that a key aspect of building resilience is to actively identify and nurture those supportive relationships in our lives.
The people who have our backs.
Right. The ones who offer practical assistance or just a listening ear when we need it most.
Because sometimes just having someone to talk to can make all the difference.
It really can. And the article actually quotes some research from Harvard Business Review that found that relationships may be our most undervalued resource.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they identified 8 common relational sources of resilience.
What are they?
Well, they include things like empathy.
Okay, so feeling understood by others.
Yeah. And having support for releasing negative emotions.
So having a safe space to vent or cry or whatever you need to do.
Right. And also political understanding, which in this context means navigating social dynamics.
Okay, so knowing how to work the system.
And feeling a shared sense of purpose with others.
So feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And the point that the article really drives home is that not all of these relational sources are equally important for everyone.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Right. It's about figuring out what kind of connections you personally need to feel supported and resilient.
It's like finding your tribe,
Exactly. And then investing in those relationships.
nurturing those connections.
Yeah, because those are the relationships that will help you weather the storms.
So these 3 habits, reframing failure, pinpointing your values, and cultivating connections.
Those are the keys to building resilience.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a few things to consider.
Yeah.
Remember, resilience isn't about avoiding challenges altogether,
It's about how you navigate them
how you learn from them.
and how you use them to grow.
So think about this. How might consciously applying just one of these habits,
Yeah.
whether it's reframing a recent setback, identifying one of your core values, or reaching out to strengthen a supportive connection, how might that shift your perspective and enhance your ability to bounce back?
That's a great question to ponder.
It is. And if you're looking for more resources to help you on your journey to greater resilience and inner peace, we encourage you to visit truefulfillment.us.
It's a great website with tons of helpful tools and exercises.
Yes. So go check it out, and thanks for joining us for this week's Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time. And don't forget to subscribe to the weekly Deep Dive podcast for more in-depth discussions and actionable insights to help you live a more fulfilling life.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the weekly Deep Dive podcast.